Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Frame of Mind Inc. podcast. This is your boy Simbawi Nibaya Jr., aka TK, and my man Omar Williams. We call him O. Say what's up to the peeps. I think you're on mute, brother. Let's take you off mute so you can say hi to everybody.
What's going on, good people?
There we go. There we go. It is another lovely Wednesday evening, that is. Those of you who are joining us live, thank you very much. Those of you who are getting the replay and the audio portion, it's going to be a great show today. Before we get into that, y'all know how we do. We don't waste no time. We jump right in. But before we do all that, it's Affirmation Wednesday. Y'all know how we do. We get the affirmations going. And if you are ready, as we are, you can get your affirmations if you write them down, if you got to memorize, or whatever it is you do. We're going to run through these real quick, but get them in and then out the way and get the show going and started. So if you're ready, repeat after me or say it with me. Today will be a good day. Today will be a great day. Today will be an awesome day. Today will be an amazing day. Today will be a phenomenal day. Today will be stress-free. Today will be a stress-less day. Today, I will overcome all barriers that want to block my progress. Today, all circumstances, issues, and situations will work in my favor. Today, all things will line up for my good. Today, I will become better than who and what I was yesterday. I am a go-getter. I am victorious. I am triumphant. I am an overcomer. I never lose. I either win or I learn. I take authority over this day. I will dominate this day. I will conquer this day. And everything I have spoken into this day will happen as I have affirmed, because I am more than a conqueror. Let's get it popping. So today, we are talking about no more excuses. No more excuses. And I think that the title of speaks for itself, but let's go ahead and dive right in. We're not going to waste no time. We're going to dive right on in. So what does no more excuses mean? Well, let's go right off the cuff right here. No more excuses means that you're not going to make any more excuses or procrastinate or put off what you can do today for tomorrow. No more excuses means you're not going to blame others for what's not going right in your life or what's going wrong in your life, or you're not going to blame circumstances or issues or situations. Now, that's not to say that issues and situations don't happen. Yes, because life happens. We know that. But let's take this into perspective. Now, we've talked about not having excuses on this show before, but this is kind of like, a come around again where it's like we're in a time right now where excuses have to go out the door. And I say this because of one simple thing. For a year and a half, life changed for everybody. And I do mean, I'm not talking about everybody. When I say everybody, not just everybody in your area, everybody in your country, everybody in your state. I'm talking about the entire world. It changed for everybody. And everybody had to now evaluate or reevaluate their life, where they stood with themselves personally, with their families, with their job, or their business, if you own one, or businesses, and everything you're affiliated with. You have to reevaluate it, because now we're in a time where it's like the digital world that we once lived in has now changed again, as if it hasn't already changed a million times over since, I don't know, 2000, the year 2000.
Mm-hmm.
How many times in the past 20 years has the digital online space changed? And right now, the excuses people are giving for not being able to do X, Y, and Z or A, B, C, D has to get tossed out the window. And I'm not saying this in a way that means, I'm not trying to be insensitive, but what I am saying is that the excuses you used to make about what you could and couldn't do and what you didn't have, they have to go. Because let's be honest, let's talk about podcasting, okay? Since we have a podcast, I'm gonna let O jump in a minute. People said, "Oh, I don't know how to start a podcast. I don't know what to do. I don't know what equipment to get. I don't have enough money to get the microphone or the system or this, that, and the other." Podcasting in today's world is so easy and simple. All you have to have is a phone and an app. A phone and an app.
Right.
That's it. That's all you need to start a podcast. That's how we started this podcast. In April of 2019, we started the Frame of Mind Inc. podcast with a phone and an app. And we've gone from having a phone and an app to doing what we're doing now and a few other things. So that's a little less than 2 years that we've evolved in our podcasting. And eventually it'll evolve again where we're doing podcasting on a whole other level. But the excuse of saying I don't have or I can't do or can't get, there are things now that money can buy and will buy that will get you by until you're able to get something else.
Right.
So if you say I can't do a podcast, you are lying to yourself and anybody else you say that to, because you can. A phone and an app. Most people, not all, I will say not all, but most people in this world have a cell phone. I might say, I'll go as far as saying 80%. And I could be off, but that number, but it's way more than 50%, that's for sure, that have a phone that's able to download an app and able to do a podcast to do that. And that's just one example.
Right.
Just one example. Oh, go ahead and jump in. I don't want to talk too much.
No, yeah, no. So when you talk about like excuses, I look at excuses like it's like say you get a wound, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you never address it. So the excuse would be, or an excuse is like never addressing a wound, right? So you have a cut on your leg and you never address it. So that excuse is saying, I can't do this. And what happens is eventually, if you never address that wound, it gets infected. You know, it takes its toll on you. And before you know it, if it gets too bad, they may have to cut that limb off. Now, I know I took it, I know I took it a little far, but what I'm saying is, an excuse is like never addressing the real issue of why you're saying you can't. Right. So it makes you feel better. Right. So like back to the wound, like, or I'll say, okay, like if you ever broke a bone before, they got to do something that hurts you to put it back in place. It's like I broke my wrist before. The doctor had to. But if I kept using excuses like, you know what? It's just a sprain. It's just a sprain. It's just a sprain, but it was broken. And I kept using the excuse not to go get it snapped back in place. My wrist could have, it could have grew back wrong. And now my arm, I got a hand growing back this way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I just look at excuses that way. You know what I'm saying? Until you address the real reason why you're making excuses, it can actually cause an infection, like a bad wound. And then eventually they got to cut that limb off, brother. That's how I look at excuses.
Wow. That's a very good analogy. I'm gonna piggyback off of that. So in the event where you're neglecting or you're saying, oh, it's just a sprain, or just it's like you're now telling yourself, oh, it's not as bad as it really is.
Right.
But you really know it is.
But you know it is, exactly.
But you know what that is really talking to you? That's fear. That's fear talking to you saying, nah, you can't do this. You don't have enough money to do this. You can't get this done. You can't get that done. And we've all heard, at least I can't say we all heard, but we've heard, that the saying that, everything you want is on the other side of fear. So once you get past your fear, like everything you want and need is on the other side of fear. So once you get past fear, I mean, who knows how far you can go, but you'll never know until you get past it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I've even said this, like, and this is not a point at you, like people said the sky's the limit. And I'm like, you know what? I mean, that's cool. But I mean, me and you serving Elohim, the great Almighty. I'm like, do I really want to put a limit on what he can do?
That's a good way to put it. You got it.
You
You're
know what I
right.
mean?
You're right. You're
Now, of
right.
course, those of you, I mean, y'all know me and O, we all are followers of the Messiah, Yahushua. Y'all know him as Jesus. I'm using the Hebrew language there. Y'all know who we are. But, me personally, I don't want to put that limit on what he's capable of doing in my life. Now, I'm limited in what I can do from a standpoint, yes. But knowing that, who it is that I serve, I'm like, I don't want to put limits on what he can do. But I
Right.
get exactly what you're saying. What's the highest you can go in your life
Right.
if you get past fear? I'm gonna give you guys a brief story real quick. And I'm actually in the process of, and I actually got this from watching He-Man on Netflix. If y'all haven't watched He-Man on Netflix, I just put a plug in there. Go watch He-Man on Netflix. The new He-Man that they just got out. Go watch that on Netflix. So I was watching the episode of He-Man, and so in the episode, that's I don't want to give too much detail. You got to go watch it. I won't give too much detail. It's the female. I don't think it's She-Ra. It's another female, and she is she's like He-Man's heir, if you want to say, or at least they're good friends, but it's like kind of like she's like his heir. And so to a degree, she kind of runs away from her destiny to a degree, trying to create her own new destiny. And in doing that, she encounters these situations that she's put herself in that are causing her to reminisce on times that she's been with He-Man. They've been in battle doing things. And so she ends up going into this dark place or whatever. And in this dark place, this dark spirit says, hey, show me or tell me your fears. And she's like, I don't fear anything. I'm not afraid of anything. Like, what are you talking about? He's like, everyone's afraid of something. And she's like, I'm not afraid of anything. He's like, all right. She's trying to free someone from the darkness grasp. And so it's like, okay, in exchange for you telling me your fears, I'll let your friends go. And so she didn't realize what fear she had until she actually faced the fear that was presented before her. And the thing that was said to her in her facing this fear was that her fear was actually knowing that she was created and meant for more, and was afraid if she met that destiny,
Oh, wow,
it would be something that caused her to be afraid to get there. And so I was like, looked at her, I said, is that me too? I was like, do I know that there's greatness? I mean, there's greatness in all of us, but there's a destiny that we have to get to. And if I'm looking and if I feel that what I'm created for and I'm destined for, I fear because of what you may have to go through, what you may encounter, or you feel it may be not necessarily your will, but the will that Elohim has for you, like that can be pretty scary and pretty fearful. At the same time, if you're struggling in your life because you keep making excuses about how you can't get there, and really what's causing that is not just your excuses, but the fear of what you don't see, you will never get there.
right,
You might get a piece of it, you might get a portion of it, but you'll never get to the place that not really that you desire to be, but that what has been paved and carved out for your life to be. And so I looked at that statement and I said, I need to really reevaluate myself and see, like, what am I really afraid of getting into to get where it is that I want to go? And that's why I say the saying we've heard that everything you want's on the other side of fear.
right.
And I have a thing written down. I said it in one of our podcasts before. I'm gonna find it real quick. But go ahead. Go ahead and jump in here so I don't talk too much.
No, I heard a person say they were talking about. So a lot of times, people get anxiety when they have fear, right? Like they get anxious or they need to know. They need to know the outcome, right? So when you don't know the outcome, you get anxious about, like I'm anxious. And I heard a person say, anxiety is imagination working with fear. Right. So I'm like, you know what? we need to get to hope. And I'm like, hope must be imagination working with faith. Right. So when I let go of that fear, when I tap into that faith, and I don't like the outcome, I'm not afraid of the outcome, or I'm not afraid of the process. I'm actually like hoping for a better outcome, or I'm hoping for, I have hope. Yeah. I got faith in the thing working out for me. But I think too, that's also another thing with excuses. That fear again, we said it already, but fear will cause you to have a million excuses.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? You'll make 1,000 reasons why you don't need to try out for the basketball team, or you'll make a million reasons why you shouldn't have applied for that job, or you know what I'm saying? I mean, I've been there. I've been there plenty of times where I've made an excuse, or you may come up with saying, "Man, those people don't like me." There's no need for me to try that anyway because blah 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Or whatever excuse I could come up with, but at the key in the heart of all of that is definitely a fear. Yeah. I've played out in my imagination again, right? I've played out every scenario that's not going to work, rather than playing out every scenario that will work.
And that's counterproductive,
right?
I mean, you create the situation or the circumstance by starting here, thinking it, then you speak it, and then you achieve it. You speak it into existence. Like you create situations and scenarios. So it's like you're creating the life that you're living. Like you are creating the scenarios, whether positive or negative, that are coming into your life by what you think and what you say. Right. Because ultimately you're going to act those things out, such as making excuses about why you can't apply for that job.
Exactly.
Or why you can't try for the basketball team, or whatever those excuses are that you're making. But you create them before they even actually happen. Like it hasn't even happened yet.
Right.
And you create it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, again, the power of your subconscious mind. Like whatever you tell your subconscious mind, it creates it. So I don't want to get into that area, because that'll be a whole other area. But I got this here, that's something that I wrote down. I saw this on a image, and I wrote it down. And it's fear. It's an acronym for fear. So it says fear, FEAR. It has two acronyms. The first one is forget everything and run. Forget everything and run. So that scenario means, okay, you're pretty much saying, I'm not going to face it. I'm going to run away from it. I'm going to get away from it. I'm not going to take it on, face it, deal with it. The second acronym is face everything and rise. Face everything and rise. Two acronyms for fear that I found in an image somewhere, and I thought those are very key, things to write down. And so, if you're taking notes, guys, that's one thing you want to write down. All right, fear, FEAR. Forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. The other thing I want to say is talking about faith. You mentioned faith, and so one thing that I had, and like when things come to me, I write them down, whether it's something I saw, read, heard, or something that Elohim gave me, and whatever he gives me in my own time, or just in the middle of the day, or whatever he gives it to me. So I was looking at this, and it said, your faith can move mountains, and your doubt can create them.
Wow.
That right there I was like, what?
Right.
I'll say it again. Your faith can move mountains, and your doubt can create them. So your faith can move mountains. Your doubt can create those mountains.
Right.
So it's really totally 1,000% up to you.
Yep.
Up to you. Now, for those of you who have ever been on our website, frameofmindinc.com, you've been to our online store, you see that we have all of our positive wear we have on there. And one of those, T-shirts that we have, as well as a wristband and other things we're coming out with, you'll see it says no excuses. Now, I don't have it on right now. You guys can't see it. But it says no excuses. It's one of the shirts that we have on our online store. We also have a wristband that says no excuses. And so for me personally, it's always, I mean, not just for me, but for me personally, I think for everyone, it should always be, every day should be, how can I get better than what I was yesterday? It's one of our affirmations. Today, I'll be better than who and what I was yesterday. Now, of course, there's going to be a day you take a step back or two, possibly even three. We're not perfect beings. We're striving for perfection, which in this life, perfection will never be achieved, but it always leaves us something to strive for, because it really will never be achieved. Like, you'll always fall short of perfection, but you're always trying to strive for it. And so what I'm going to kind of say here in a bit of conclusion is that the excuses that we once made will no longer be the excuses that will work for us in the future.
Right.
Because now, like, the excuses now is like life has gotten shorter since 2019 to now 2021. And I say life's gotten shorter because what you procrastinated on then is what you cannot procrastinate on now. What you gave excuses for then, you can't give excuses for now. Who you blame then, you cannot blame now. You can't blame anybody but yourself, honestly. You're in control of your life. Now, of course, again, life does happen, and circumstances will come, and situations will come, and circumstances will come to get in your way. But what are one of our affirmations? What is it? That everything that wants to stop and block our progress is like, nah, like, you gotta get out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm using my faith. I'm not using my doubt.
Right.
You gotta get out of the way. Whether either I'm gonna go through you, I'll go around you, I'll go under you, I'll go over you. However you gotta get it. But me turning around and not facing it, like, that just can't happen. Like, it's never gonna move, and it's never gonna stop bothering you unless you face it. Unless you decide, you know what, I gotta face this thing and I gotta deal with this thing. Because whatever it is that you're fearful of, that you're doubting, and that you're blaming other things, other people for, that's going to stick with you until you deal with it.
Yep.
Case in point, and I'm gonna let O jump in here for the last thing. And y'all, I'm gonna take this biblical real quick for you. David and Goliath. Goliath was 8 times bigger than David. Mind you, Goliath was a man. David was a boy. And y'all know where I'm going with this. Goliath was a man and was considered to be a giant. David was a boy. And the one thing that David could have done, which the entire army decided to do, was they decided to fear Goliath. One man made an entire army fearful. And David could have said, I'm just going to run from this like everybody else did. But he actually chose to run towards it. He faced everything and he rose instead of forgetting everything and running. And so David could have easily said, I don't have enough armor. I don't have enough spears. I don't have enough, horses and chariots to take down Goliath. I don't have enough. But David said, the thing that I do have is what I'm going to use. He had a slingshot and some smooth stones. On top of that, he had the backing of the Almighty. Mm-hmm. Let's just for the sake of this conversation, let's just, in retrospect, remove the Almighty from the equation. Let's just for this sake of the conversation. He still used what he had to go up against Goliath.
Right.
He could have came up with every single excuse why not to take him on, but chose to. And in doing so, defeated him with one shot. It didn't take several. It took one shot to defeat him. And not only that, he then takes Goliath's sword and then cuts his head off. Now, sorry for those of you who might think that might be a little too far, but I'm just giving you the scenario. Like, he's like, I'm not just going to take down my giant. I'm going to destroy my giant so it never comes back again. I'm done.
Drop the mic, man. Drop the mic. But I'll add to. I'll give you a secular version of like like excuses and facing fear. If you saw Star Wars,
Oh man, I'll go.
Luke.
That's one of my joints.
So the Return of the Jedi, Luke gets trained by Yoda. Okay, and pretty much I'm gonna make a long story short, but throughout the training, he couldn't get it, and he couldn't quite understand it, and he didn't understand the Force. And Yoda kept telling him it's all like it's no thinking about it. You just do it. You don't be like you be it. Don't like it's no like juggling it. But his biggest fear, like he would have dreams, and his biggest fear would be himself, because Darth Vader, he would see visions and stuff, and then like he would beat Darth Vader up, and then like the helmet comes off, and it's actually him. So what he really was scared of, it was himself. Back to what you kind of said earlier. So like once he overcame that, then he becomes the Jedi, and he's the most powerful Jedi we know. So
exactly.
You know.
And just as a quick note, Star Wars is the greatest series trilogy ever made. Just the greatest. Saying it's the greatest. As I always say, it's the greatest.
It's the greatest.
So listen, I hope I always say I hope, but I'm pretty sure you guys got something out of this. It is my hope and prayer that we always bring you guys value each and every time we do this. We're in the latter part of the year, where we're in October. We're entering into November, December, which are probably the busiest times of the month. Frame of Mind Inc. podcast will continue to move forward and evolve and make things better. Thank you so much for sticking with us, guys. The pandemic and I'm going to say this: the pandemic that we had, the pandemic that we had, really was a prosperous one for us when we started this podcast, because it allowed us to reach an audience of people that were want to talk about some of the things that we talk about in this show. But we're looking for either the voices that had the conversations, or we're looking for somewhere to have the conversations. And so we're that podcast that likes to have those conversations. As you guys know, on the bottom of the frame here, it says, invoking conversations, interviews and insights from industry leaders, challenging, your mind, your attitude and your character. And that's what we do here. And it's not just for you guys, like it's for us too. Like we're always constantly challenging ourselves as well. It's not just us saying, well, you guys need to get your mind right. No, we got to get our mind right too. Like,
right.
It's every day. It's every day. Every day. Like there's challenges every day. Like for the past almost 3 months, there's been challenges for myself and my family. We've had some transitions in our lives happen that have been good transitions. But there's been things that we've had to hold off on, things I had to cut off and stop because of the transitions. And so I'm working my way back into doing some things that I had to put a halt on and stop doing. Even some people that I had to kind of like put a halt on and stop doing because it was just too much. And I had to, evaluate, okay, what is the most important things for me to be doing right now? And so whether people understand that or not, or they, comprehend it, I can't speak for them, but one thing I will stop doing, and I have stopped doing, but I will continue to stop doing, is making excuses. That's one thing that I will continue to not continue to do is not make excuses, because, and then getting on the other side of fear. Excuse me. Get a little drink there. Other side of fear, because you got to. You really have. Well, you do have a choice, but the choice is: do you want to become who you're supposed to be, or do you want to become who you want to be? I think it's a big difference. On top of that, do you want to become who you want to be, or do you want to become who you need to be? Because my thing is like, I don't want to be the leader that people want me to be. I want to become the leader people need me to be. Because the need and the want are two different things. Like wanting something, like that's fine. But when something becomes a necessity, that's a whole different ball game.
Right.
Like you're not just wanted, you're needed. That's kind of, no, it's like, I'm not saying that I want to be needed, but I want to make sure that if I'm going to become a leader, I want to be the leader that people need me to be, so that I can help meet the need that it is that you need, and not just give you, the fluff and all that stuff. And then, it's kind of like I'm giving you a drug. You come back for more and more and more. It's like, no, I want to give you what you need. And then when you want to go to that next level, I can give you what you need there. And however it is that it happens. But I'm going to stop here because we're already at a half hour. And we try and make sure we give you guys the most of what we can give you guys in the least amount of time, because less is more. And you can say a lot in 30 minutes and get your point across and give some crazy, drop some crazy knowledge and have, people take some great notes and keep things moving. So what you got before we go?
Yeah, no, as you were saying that, I just heard, do you want to be your default setting or the advanced settings, right? Because like with the default settings, you don't do anything, but it's not the best it could be. But the advanced settings, you got to go in there and change a few things around and you get the best you can. So I just, as you said that, I'm like, man, the default us is the us that does nothing and just lets life come at us. You know what I'm saying? So let's not be our default. Let's be our advanced selves. So
exactly. Awesome stuff.
Yep.
Well, for all of us here at Affirmation Mind Inc. Podcast, thanks for joining us, guys. And as always, continue to think it, speak it, and achieve it in a positive way, in the best way, the right way that works not just for you, but for everybody else. Until next time, I'll holla. Thank you for joining the Frame of Mind Inc. podcast. And as always, here at Frame of Mind Inc., think positive thoughts, say positive things, and do positive deeds. As our tagline says, think it, speak it, achieve it. See you next time.
It's a frame of mind. It's what you say and what you do.
Don't forget to check us out on the web at www.frameofmindinc.com, where you can browse our online apparel store, listen to some of our original music and production services, as well as view our videos and projects we've done for our clients and customers.